is the Sport Fiction Podcast. We discuss the world of sports at 13 PSI without a trash can in sight. If our answers frighten you, then you should cease asking scary questions. Sport fiction is a made-up piece of literature where a sport has a specific impact on the plot or the main characters. Let's see what these two characters will make up today. One is a sports analytics expert, and the other one, a sports agent. Here are your hosts, Noah and Jorge.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Sport Fiction Podcast. My name is Jorge, and my co-host here.
I'm Noah Gatzik. Excited to do this Sport Fiction Podcast. This is for those of you that don't know, it's a little homage to Pulp Fiction, which is like my favorite movie, and Jorge was
That's your favorite movie? I did not know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was like High School Musical.
It's like top 10, but no.
Well, thank you so much to the listeners and everybody tuning in. You can find us on Spotify Podcast, Apple Podcast, our website, thesportfiction.com, or on our YouTube channel as well, the Sports Fiction. So we have a big serving of topics that we want to cover today. But before we do that, I want to introduce ourselves to our audience. This is our first podcast. Now, one thing I was thinking, we a lot of people don't know us like they do some of these athletes out there with podcasts. So I get it. We're not trying to compete with them. But let me ask you, where do your parents live?
Parents are in South Florida.
Okay.
So they live in Boynton Beach, Florida right now.
Do you have other siblings?
Nope, only child. They stopped at perfection.
Well, maybe if they want to adopt me, we can have one of them brother podcasts going like the Kelseys and the Mannings. Maybe we compete with them. But
there you go.
So my name, to tell you a little bit about myself first, my name is Jorge Diaz. I'm president of a company called Kennedy 33 Advisors. We do player management and we're a player agency. So we represent players in professional leagues, MLB, NBA, NFL, NHL, and others, including NCAA. Our expertise is in tax planning, money management, and player negotiations, including endorsements and NIL. Tell me a little bit about you, Noah.
Nice. Yeah, it's not as cool, unfortunately. I'm a product manager for a company called Sports Info Solutions, rocking the hat, SIS. Been there for a while, but I also have previous experience working with the Tampa Bay Rays in their marketing and stadium operations department, as well as the Cincinnati Reds. Actually, I'm wearing the shirt. They're Dayton Dragons. I was with them for a season in baseball operations. So been in a bunch of different departments for a few different baseball teams. Interesting background. Sports Info Solutions is kind of a independent company that specializes in whole sorts of things, but basically data analytics is our bread and butter. Started out just as a baseball company, Baseball Info Solutions, but then we've expanded into football, basketball, and actually have gone into a bunch of other sports too now. But we work with almost every major league team at this point. Probably chances are we've worked with your favorite team at some point. If we don't currently, we've expanded. We work with at least half the NFL teams now. And we even expanded into some college football teams, which is kind of relatively new for us. But we do a lot of things. It's not just teamwork. We do stuff with sports books. Gambling obviously is a big thing nowadays. Daily fantasy. Then we have pretty much, if you have a data need in the sports industry, we have the means to try and tackle it and take it on. So
what's funny, a lot of teams get this data, but some of them use it. Some of them, it doesn't seem like they use it very well, do they?
Yeah, I mean, whatever. A lot of teams pay for it. What they do with it from there, that's up to them. That's not up to us, but we provide it for them. Some teams use every single piece of data. Some teams use only one certain aspect of our data, whether it's something like base running or defensive specific. For those of you that don't know, like if you ever heard the term DRS, which is defensive run save, that was a stat that our company created. So kind of specialize in defensive metrics, mainly in baseball. So that's kind of like where we became so known in the industry, and we've been working with teams for over 20 years now. Um, it's definitely interesting, but yeah, some teams, like you said, some teams utilize it a lot better and a lot more than others, and some teams just have data to have. Some teams don't utilize as much analytics as they should. And some of them are probably obvious, and some of them maybe aren't as obvious as you would think. But there's a reason why certain teams are good more often than they're not, and there's reasons why teams aren't as competitive as others. And I'll leave it at that.
I think it's exciting because our listeners are going to get some perspectives that they're probably not used to getting. You know, they're used to a lot of athletes having podcasts and talking about their experience, and that's pretty cool. Every time we listen to like the Kelsey brothers and they talk about what it is like to be on the field, then you have, you know, the Manning or your commentators that play before, and they're talking about what might happen, what it means when it happens on the field. And that's pretty cool. I'd never step foot on a professional field, right? Not with a fat paycheck. Neither have you. So I think we're going to provide a different perspective, both from the analytics side and from the player's point of view outside of the league itself. So it should be fun. It should be fun. One thing that we're going to really need to talk about now is the NFL playoffs. You know, we're in full force. I know a lot of people are happy about their teams being in. Some people are not so happy. So, what do you think we have to look forward to right now?
Who are those people that you're hinting at that aren't so happy? What are you talking about? I guess we should start off with this as to set expectations for the podcast listeners. I am a Philadelphia sports fan, unfortunately. Huge Eagles, Phillies, Flyers. You know, try to be as rational as I can. Obviously, I think when people think Philly sports, they don't necessarily think rational thoughts there.
True. And I'm not too far down the road. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So, I mean, today, if you're watching us on YouTube, this is like a fashion show, right? But I'm sporting my Steelers gear. We made the playoffs. I'm very happy for that because 3 weeks ago, I thought we had no chance. 4 weeks ago, I was like, we're dead. You know, like let's plan on 2024 and see what happens.
Yeah, no, it's amazing what perspective is. So as an Eagles fan, I can tell you that it's like the sky is falling. It feels like it doesn't even feel like we made the playoffs, to be honest. And that honestly, I think if you asked a lot of Eagles fans, they would almost prefer we didn't make the playoffs at this point, which is a wild statement to say for a team that was 10-1 at one point in the season.
Do you think that's the way? I mean, is it a Philadelphia, New York thing where when your team doesn't do well, you just like go from 0 to 100 real quick about how much your team sucks and all that? Is that because I don't
Well,
see it happening everywhere?
it doesn't happen everywhere. I'll say this. I think Philly sports fans, say whatever you want about them. Big markets too. Boston is just as bad as us. Same with New York. Um, but they're not dumb. And what I mean by that is I think we all kind of understand, like we kind of hold our team to higher expectations than most, especially when those expectations have been set. Make no mistake about it. This year for the Eagles was Super Bowl or bust. You make a case that they were a 50-50 holding call away from potentially winning the Super Bowl last year. So when you set those expectations and then you start off the year 10-1, which is kind of wild thinking about that. It feels like 2 years ago now. The expectations get built in. And from my perspective, this is my philosophy in sports. You either want to be all in or all out. You don't want to be in the middle. The worst place you can be is the middle because people get complacent and you're not going to make as much progress. At least if you suck, it's kind of like what the Orioles have done for years, right? They've been the worst team in the league for years. They stockpile a bunch of picks. Now all of a sudden they're one of the best teams in the league with the lowest payroll. And, I don't know why they're not spending money yet this offseason. That's a different conversation. But, that's how you rebuild. Maybe not as fast as some people would like, but, it's never good to be in the middle. You either want to be all in, which is the goal, and be playing for a Super Bowl, World Series, championship, whatever it is every year. Or, in my opinion, you want to be terrible. You want to be the bottom team. And I think the reason why fans in Philadelphia feel similar to me is realistically, based on what they've looked like the past 6-7 weeks, they're not a Super Bowl team. I don't know if they would beat the Panthers. Hell, I don't know if they would beat Michigan.
But we've seen how many teams come in. You just got to make it to the show. They
Yep.
come in, they go on a run, and they win it all. I mean, that happens a lot.
It definitely happens, and it's possible. I would say that I would like to see some sort of signs that there is anything optimistic. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I was like, "Can you name me one thing that you're optimistic about the Philadelphia Eagles besides the brotherly shove?"
I mean, you're playing Tampa. That's a good road to start it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the Bucks are probably the worst team in the playoffs.
After the Steelers, right?
Oh yeah, I was on from the NFC, from the NFC side of things. So yeah, but I just saw this team get embarrassed by the Giants and the Cardinals 2 consecutive weeks,
Yeah.
and it's just like I don't know. I I hope I'm wrong. I do a pick 'em. I'm going to pick them every week. I picked the Bucks to beat the Eagles. I hope I'm wrong. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, really, there's something is wrong with the team. We will get more into that. I don't want to.
That's funny. You said, I remember you posted somewhere that you wouldn't even go watch this team this week if you were given tickets for free. Is
Yeah,
that
I
still
wouldn't.
hold true?
Well, unless this is going in some direction that I'll get to. But so I went to one game this year. I went to the Jets Eagles game, and with my buddy Brandon Haney, shout out, thank you, Pops, for the free tickets. Um, and it was as bad as it gets. I mean, that was one of the worst games I've ever been to be frank. And so I kind of made a joke. I was like, because we were undefeated at the time, I was like, well, I can never set foot into an Eagles game again.
Wow.
So yes, now I live in Tampa, or I live in Clearwater, which is right by Tampa. So they are coming to Tampa. I have looked at ticket prices. I have, but the other kicker here is they're playing on January 15th, which is my birthday, and I just can't do it to myself to go pay for tickets to watch them lose.
So, okay, it's wild, man. It's wild to hear this because a lot of fans are like, okay, my team made it. I'm going to figure out, I'm going to support them all the way. So, funny thing, I still have tickets to this game that I can't sell. Like nobody's buying the tickets. I mean, you said that this might be the lowest watch game in whatever history, so you're probably right. Because I can't even sell my tickets, and they're pretty good tickets. So I'm gonna give it till tomorrow, and I'll tell you right now, if I can't dump them, and I'm gonna drag you to that game, and you're gonna act like a real fan, okay? Because otherwise, what's the whole point of the whole organization? All in or all out? If you're
You're
gonna be
right.
all out, they need to be all out.
If you're offering me those seats for free, which are very good seats for people who are wondering, I might have to take that on pure principle. But I'll go fully prepared to go full boo the crap out of the team if I have to.
I mean, it's your birthday, so why not? But
Yeah.
if you're so inclined, I think my wife would let you borrow a Dallas Cowboys jersey to wear to that game, just so that.
Never. That'll never happen. I'll wear my Eagles stuff even when they're terrible. I'm still supporting the team. I love them. It's just it's painful, man. It's painful, and I've seen it with the Phillies losing in the World Series and then heartbreak in the NLCS. It's
Man,
just
you had a tough couple of years. Okay, so tell me on the field of the NFL, who do you see has the best chance of going all the way?
I mean, it's got to be the 49ers. You look at that team top to bottom. There's not a hole in that entire team. There's all pros everywhere. They have, I would have argued that one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in the league. They have one of the best, if not the best, defensive line in the league. That alone will win you a ton of games. And oh, by the way, they have Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle. They're just a wagon. They're rolling, and I think they're very well coached, which we've already kind of talked a little bit is very important. I just don't see a weakness. I know that they've lost a couple of games.
Yeah, they lost 3 in a row to
Yep.
Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland can make
which
some
is a
noise
playoff team.
in the AFC. The Vikings, that one doesn't count. The Bengals, that one doesn't count anymore, right?
Was it Bengals with Burrow? I'm pretty sure it
I
was.
think so. It was game 7 of the season. Let me see, game 7 or 8. So, and then that loss to the Rams doesn't count.
Yeah.
So the Ravens beat them, but it was a close game. It wasn't.
That would be my pick in the AFC, not to go chalk with the 1 seeds. But I mean, I think anyone would be lying if the Ravens and 49ers haven't been playing the best out of anyone.
What's their
Um,
weakness? What's the Ravens' weakness? I mean, what's going to beat the Ravens besides the Steelers? Because we're Raven killers.
yeah,
Beat them
maybe.
both times this year. So
I think the key to beating the Ravens is we really haven't seen them come from behind too often. They're a team that's very built to kind of just take it to you from the start, and kind of similar to 49ers, honestly. They haven't had to come from behind too often either. Um, I think the question with the Ravens is always going to be until Lamar Jackson proves it, which to me, Lamar Jackson's a no doubt top 5 quarterback in the league. I don't think there's anything more to talk about in that. But until Lamar Jackson can prove that he can come back, beat a team throwing the ball in the pocket, which you're going to have to do in the postseason, I think that's going to be their question mark. They're really sound defensively, again, extremely well coached. They're not going to give up a lot of points. So it's hard to take a lead on them early.
should he win the MVP?
Probably.
I mean, some people make a case for other quarterbacks because of the numbers. They look at the quarterback numbers, right? Somebody compared Dak Prescott to Jackson, and Dak had more yards, more touchdowns, a lot more touchdowns because he ended
Yeah.
up the leader in the league, and fewer interceptions. And I get it, but then you got to throw in that 900 yards or so that Lamar Jackson put up on the ground. That means a lot. I mean, that's a lot of drives that you extend, and if you
Yep.
extend an extra 2 drives a game, 1 drive, 2 drives a game, hell,
They're hard
um,
to get off the field. There's
yeah,
no doubt about that.
and that could make all the difference in the world. And that's why you have what, 3 losses, 4 losses versus whatever 7 or
Yeah.
8 losses somebody else has in the playoffs. So I tell you what, I don't know if the Ravens are for real. I think that Lamar's going to make the difference. His legs can also make the difference. So even if he doesn't have a great monster game from the pocket, but he does use his leg, that's going to create problems for other teams. But I don't want to say they're pretenders because they're a pretty good team, and it's not like they won 3 games last year, right? But I don't think they have the experience that they need on the field to be able to go all the way. And I don't mean playoff experience. I just mean in general. Because you have on the field, right now you have some pretty good teams. Now, I know Flacco is old as heck, but that's 100 years of experience he brings in, right?
I'll say this, man. The Browns are probably a team almost nobody wants to play right now because I mean, one, you got playoff Flacco, so that means eliteness is coming. But in all seriousness, I mean, the Browns probably have the best defense in the league. Shout out to Jim Schwartz. Thank you for the Eagles Super Bowl. Even though you really didn't do anything in that game to deserve it, but sir, thank you for your service. The way Flacco's playing right now, I mean, like, could he not be in the MVP conversation? I mean, seriously, it's ridiculous. It's kind of ridiculous to say. He's got a much smaller sample size, but I mean, the Browns were finding ways to win game. I mean, obviously Watson was there for a little bit. That's a touchy subject for another day. And then they were winning with Dorian Thompson Robinson. They were winning some games. They had PJ Walker play a couple of games for them. They were winning. And then all of a sudden, Flacco kind of comes in and say everything you want. Look at the tape. Joe Flacco is balling right now. I mean, he is making every throw imaginable. No, I mean, I think no one ever questions Joe Flacco's arm, right? I mean, everyone that was Joe Flacco's thing. He has a howitzer for an arm. But some of the throws he was making were just like, I mean, I don't even know if Mahomes is making some of these throws. Like
I don't remember him making those before.
Yeah.
When he was, so I was like,
He's
what are you
playing
doing?
loose. And you know what? He should be. He has nothing to lose. He got brought in as like an emergency quarterback. But and it's kind of like for full disclosure, like I'm the biggest Nick Foles fan on the planet, and it drives me crazy that he didn't get a chance. Some of these reject idiots getting opportunities over a guy who single handedly kind of put the team on his back and won a Super Bowl. But that's not here or there. But Flacco's hot right now. These guys, he's smart. You're not going to surprise Joe Flacco with anything. There's nothing you're going to show Joe Flacco that you're going to just blow his mind with. And in the playoffs, kind of like what you said with like the question mark with the Ravens about like this inexperience and all this stuff. In the playoffs, things throw everything else out the window, and it's a tournament. That's why you say maybe you're optimistic about the Eagles. I get it, but Joe Flacco right now in the aggregate is probably playing better quarterback than anyone else in the league right now, and I don't think that's an overstatement. I really don't. I
If
really
we
don't.
if we're not worried about sample size, then we got to throw Mason Rudolph in there. I mean,
Mason's
come on,
played.
call me a
Hey,
homer. Oklahoma State Cowboy from Oklahoma, my backyard, coming into my Steelers. He's been on the bench like 22 years. I don't know how old he is now, but he's
just
backed
for the
up every
record.
quarterback, known to man, that's come through Pittsburgh that gets
Yeah,
the
I mean,
first shot. But now, Tomlin, I mean, he's got some confidence in him. Just throw him in there. We're doing what we're doing 3 games in a row, and let's see what happens. So
yeah, the Mike Tomlin slander is just ridiculous to me. That guy still has not pulled together a losing season. And I mean, like, I can make a case what he did this year with this might rub people the wrong way. I don't think Kenny Pickett's an NFL quarterback. I really don't. Not a starting NFL franchise caliber quarterback.
oh,
I think he should be in the league. I think he's more of a backup. I just don't think he's a starter. Um, Mitch Trubisky probably shouldn't be in the league at all anymore. And Mason Rudolph, with all due respect, wasn't even being considered for backup jobs this year. And Mason Rudolph's actually kind of played. He's making the throws done when he's have to do. But the fact that Tomlin still, and I know a lot of it was dragged out by the defense. Defense is incredible. They were able to still make the playoffs and have a winning record. I mean, this is arguably the best. Some of the most, besides containing and controlling a team with AJ Brown and Le'Veon Bell for as many years as he did. I think this is arguably the most impressive thing he's ever done.
right.
And so it's like, I don't know, the Mike Tomlin slam. I'll have none of that. I'll have none of it.
Yeah.
There's not a single coach in the league I would take over Mike Tomlin, and I'm not even saying that like as a joke. That I love Andy Reid. Bill Belichick was carried by Brady a little bit, but he's one of the best to ever do it.
TJ's out this week,
Yeah,
so I don't give him a chance. We're 1-10 when TJ's out. TJ Watt is out, so I don't think it looks good. And right now, um, the way that the quarterback from the Bills is playing, Allen is just like a little bit lights out. Like he doesn't realize that he's not supposed to be playing this well. So
I was gonna say, even though they're the Bills, if I had to pick a team that isn't like consensus favorite here, that would be like my Super Bowl pick. I think it would be the Bills because they're playing their best at the right time. Which is kind of, and Stephon Diggs still hasn't really been overly involved. And we know playoff time now, Gabe Davis, we're on Gabe Davis watch. This is where, he shows up. But ever since they made the switch from Ken Dorsey to Joe Brady as their offensive coordinator, this team has just looked completely different. James Cook looks like one of the better running backs in the league. Josh Allen's been playing more to the MVP caliber level that we've kind of expected him to be. Now he still has that Carson Wentz in him where he's going to go rogue and got like that gunslinger mentality where for some reason there's three people there and he's still going to try and fit it into this tiny window because he kind of can. He has the arm strength to do it. But then he makes some decisions that drive you crazy. And I get it. They're kind of guilty until proven innocent. Like they're kind of, until they get it done, it's going to be hard to believe them. But I love what the Bills are doing. I think McDermott's a great coach. I really do. And what a concept. You fire your offensive coordinator and all of a sudden your offense kind of turns into that. I wish the Eagles would take a page out of that book.
I'm going to give you some teams and you tell me if they have a shot, a real shot. The Lions.
Yeah, they have a shot. I would say not one of the top two options in the NFC, but they have a chance. Yeah.
What about the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, what about the league leading offense, the Dolphins?
I don't think so.
I mean, I know they played the Chiefs right out of the gate, But
I
come on, it's the
think,
Dolphins. They put up monster numbers. They choked at the end. I get the choke. They choked, but they have a powerful offense that could just like put you out of the game early if you're not watching, you know? So
yeah, they can. They've got a ton of injuries now stacking up on the defensive side of the ball. I'm assuming Waddle will be ready to play this week. He should be. So that will help a lot. But I don't know, man. A team based on speed going into the coldest game potentially ever being played at Arrowhead. I saw that might be a thing.
yeah, some
Like,
people are saying they shouldn't even play the game. I'm like, it's football. What are you talking about? This is a dance competition outdoor. Like,
I can guarantee you I wouldn't be going to that game if you offered me free tickets.
that's funny. I remember going to Arrowhead for a Big 12 championship, OU and Missouri. And it had snow, like crazy amount of snow. And when we got to the stadium, they can clean the field and they clean some of the aisles for snow, but they don't clean in front of all the seats. So we were standing on ice the whole time, and it was literally like 10 degrees outside. You're standing on ice all night. That was rough. So I think that's what people are gonna have to look forward to this week. But I don't
Sounds like
think they
Pokemon
mind.
torture.
These aren't Philly fans. They're gonna go
Nah, hey, Philly
no
fans,
matter
they'll show
what.
up.
That's
I'm
funny. So your two teams, like, who do you think will be in the Super Bowl? Are you just going with the number one seeds?
no, I'm gonna go 49ers and Bills.
Oh, Bills. Okay.
I'm gonna say
Okay.
49ers Bills. Again, this is just one not going shot. I don't think anyone's beating the 49ers this year. I really don't. I think if Purdy can just play the game that he's capable of, they can stay healthy. I don't think anyone's beating them. So I would pick, if I had to pick right now before the playoffs start, 49ers beat the Bills in the Super Bowl. It would be my official pick. I hope I'm wrong.
We're very far away on this one. I'm going Cowboys and Chiefs.
Okay. I mean, it wouldn't surprise almost anyone in the AFC. It's funny. I wonder how many more teams you were gonna ask me about. There's two teams in the AFC that I would be pretty surprised would come out and be a Super Bowl. The Steelers are the obvious one, and it's not really a disrespect to them. It's just they're not, unless Mason Rudolph gets super hot, they're just not on the same caliber talent wise as all the other teams. And the Texans, who are a good team, but they're definitely way ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
It's first year. I think this is such an important learning experience for CJ Stroud, D'Amico Ryan's first year head coach, first year quarterback. Really love their offensive coordinator. Don't be surprised if you hear Slovik's name being mentioned as a head coaching candidate. But they're early, and similar to the Bucks, they were in the worst division by far. Honestly, the Colts and Jags, the Jags really blew it. That's a whole nother conversation. But the Colts were a little bit better than I think anyone anticipated, because it turns out that their new head coach, who was the Eagles offensive coordinator last year, is pretty damn good. But
is this fair to Stroud coming in with a new coach? I mean, how would you feel if first year in the league and you're the star quarterback and you get a new coach to start your career? I mean, how fair is that?
It worked. Hey man, it worked. It was risky. I mean, I think D'Amico Ryans was like the number one head coach candidate last year, and that he just happens to be more of a defensive guy than an offensive guy. But no, it was risky, but it worked. I mean, I think it's fair to him. I mean, look where they're at. I think they've earned the right to play a playoff game at home in his rookie year. They've earned that. They earned that. Like, they take nothing away from that. Sure, it might have been the worst division in the AFC, but they earned it.
It'd be fun
And
to see
so,
him
yeah, I give
go on a
this.
run.
It kind of reminds me, honestly, of when the Eagles first went in under Sirianni, where the most important thing that they got out of it was they didn't have a chance. They went to Tampa. Ironic that they're coming back here now. They were playing Tom Brady. They had no chance to beat Tom Brady, and they got their ass kicked. But you know what? They learned a lot from that. And then next year they came out and they were the best team in the league and almost won the Super Bowl. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans are on a similar trajectory. I really won't. And they're going to have some money to spend next year. Um, Not many franchises look more have a brighter future than the Texans right now. But I would be pretty shocked if they might win a playoff game. I think that's very. I mean, I think I'm picking the Browns to win that game. Um, but it's winnable for sure. And I wouldn't be surprised. I would be a little surprised if they went into like Buffalo or Baltimore and beat them. I would be pretty surprised if that happened. But
Maybe JJ was ready to unretire.
I saw that. I saw he made like a tweet making a joke. He could just he can be TJ for a day.
Put me in, coach. So do you think that Mason Rudolph played himself into a real job next year somewhere?
He'll be a backup. I mean, I think he should be the Steelers backup.
Well, he's done that for a long time. Does he have any trade value, or is there any trade interest from the Steelers to get something out of it? Because you paid Trubisky a bunch of money too.
Yeah, Mitch is going to be gone. They'll cut him.
Yeah.
I don't know what his guaranteed money is or contract list, but I'd be pretty surprised if Mitch Trubisky was still in the league next year. I mean, maybe some team will give him a shot. There's
maybe the
a ton of
Eagles.
quarterbacks. Yeah, man, probably
Could take our trash.
with my luck. Yeah, Trubisky will be the backup and then have to start like week 3. I just don't think there's a lot of I mean, there's some people that don't think even Justin Fields is going to get like a first round pick, which kind of blows my mind a little bit. But that's we'll see. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what the Bears end up deciding to do there, which is a very interesting conversation. I just don't think there's any value there for unless he goes on like a ridiculous run in the playoffs, maybe. But I think his historical work is enough for people to kind of be like, yeah, this is kind of like lightning. It worked. It works in Pittsburgh as a backup third string type guy, but I don't think he has any value.
Yeah, that makes
really
sense. Well, we'll see. We'll see. At the end of the show, we're gonna make some picks so that we're gonna keep track and see how terrible we are. Predicting how this field is gonna end up. So let's switch gears here. Let me talk about the college playoff football.
Yep.
That game Monday, is that what you expected to see?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest college football fan. Just I hate that the NIL deal has made it a little bit better, but now it's more convoluted. I hate the transfer portal. I think there's a lot of things I don't like about it. I'm very excited for the 12 team playoff. I think that's great for the sport. But yeah, going to answer your question, I was hoping that Washington would put up more of a fight, but I was actually texting one of my buddies who's a big college football fan, and literally the exact same time, we both said this was like in the first quarter, after Michigan broke the second big run, this game might be over.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those things where Michigan was just better, and it's hard to. I mean, Washington's got some dudes. Like, there's going to be a lot of guys drafted pretty early that went to Washington this year, and I'm curious where the quarterback ends up. It's very interesting. And he is a very good college quarterback, and he probably will get a shot in the NFL. It's got some flaws there, but I was kind of hoping to see a little bit more of like Michigan didn't really have to do anything on offense,
Right.
which was the more surprising part to me. Is I mean, not that Washington defense is really all that great. It's kind of like the Pac-12 defense. But I felt like Michigan just ran. I mean, give them credit. They have an amazing offensive line. I wouldn't be surprised if everyone on their offensive line is starting in the NFL whenever they get there, which is a crazy advantage. But, McCarthy didn't really have to do anything. I don't know, like, I couldn't even tell you a highlight that one of the receivers. I remember the tight end made a really good play. I can't even remember if the receiver did anything. But it was kind of too easy. And I will be honest, that's kind of my concern moving forward. Sometimes you're going to have some teams that like people can bitch and complain all they want. The national championship game was basically the winner of the Michigan-Alabama game, in my opinion, no matter who won on the other side. I mean, Texas, I know, beat Alabama. Texas might have had a better chance to actually win the national title, in my opinion, than Washington. But
I agree.
But they couldn't be Washington. So
McCarthy completed 10 passes this game.
Yeah.
If you tell
So
me that he's going to complete 10 passes, I tell you Michigan is going to lose, but nope, wasn't even close.
yeah, and they weren't even doing anything that complex. It was more just like we're gonna run the ball down your throat, and our line, the trenches, is gonna dominate. And that's kind of that frequently happens in college football, which is part of the reason why I'm not as big of a fan as college football as I am the NFL, because when you have that big of a mismatch in the trenches, you can win. Yeah, it's near impossible to overcome.
Yeah.
But I wasn't overly that surprised. I was hoping it would be closer. And I was even talking to some of my buddies. I was like, I don't really feel the need to bet this game, but if I were to bet, there's not a chance I would have gone Washington. um, it
Are
was
is this team, how is it going to look next year? Are they going to be affected by the portal? I mean, a lot of people going to leave.
who, Michigan or
Yeah,
Washington?
Michigan.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Harbaugh is going to leave. I think that's the biggest thing, right? I have no inside information. I have no knowledge or anything like that. I'm just kind of connecting dots and feel like if he would have signed the extension with the no clause to go to the NFL, he would have done it already. Um, I think there's a lot of good openings in the NFL that make a lot of sense. The Chargers are the main one that stick out. You can go pair them with Herbert. I think the Raiders makes a lot of sense. Go to Vegas, get a lot of money. Potentially even I thought Chicago would have made sense, but it sounds like they're keeping Eberflus. Um, but I mean, and the Eagles job could potentially be open. Hopefully, anyway. But I think that's the first question: is Harbaugh coming back? And I don't think the answer is yes. I think the answer is no. I think he's going to the NFL.
So let's
So
say he's gone.
yeah.
Do players
Um,
follow suit? Do they jump ship and go somewhere else? And do they stay in the Big Ten? Do they go elsewhere? And
I think it'll depend on the situation. Obviously the draft eligible guys are gone. Um, for sure. I don't think any of them are going to stay.
yeah,
Um, I wouldn't. It depends if their defensive coordinator takes over. I think it depends who their head coach is. To be honest, I know that's kind of hard to say, but I would be shocked if Michigan wasn't one of the top teams again next year. I mean, I know they had a really good recruiting class the last 2 years, classes I should say. Um, but yeah, they're gonna have to replace a lot of people. I mean, their starting quarterback's gonna be gone, probably both running backs. The Quorum's definitely gone. Um, their offensive line, there's a lot of guys that are going to be gone there too. I mean, I think what their best offensive line, Zach Zenner didn't even play. He was hurt.
yeah.
So like they they're a good team. I would still expect I'd fully expect them to be a playoff team next year, be one of the top 12 teams.
Is there anything from the portal that you do like? You know, you said you hated the portal, and I get some of the things why people hate it, but is there anything about it you like?
Yeah, I mean, I like that the portal makes it so that any team from any season can be relevant. Um, Arch Manning wants to go to USF for some reason. USF is now relevant. I mean, that's kind of unfair. They had a good year. Congrats to USF. You did well. You won your bowl game. Um, but yeah, like it just depends. Like there's a bunch of teams like kind of like a middling team like Minnesota, right? If all of a sudden they can pull a Quinn Ewers type player, and I don't think Quinn is transferring. I'm just giving an example. Um, then maybe Minnesota is really good next year. I mean, we already saw, but what I don't like is like, I mean, we saw it with like the Gators running back leaving, going to Georgia, like at ETN, which if I were a player, I would do it for sure. I mean, I would
Right.
get the hell out of there and go to Georgia and go put up my stats, take my NIL money, and then probably get drafted in the second or third round, or
Right.
maybe even higher, depending on how good of a year I have. Um, I get it. Um, I think there should be some more rules and some structures. Like I think everyone has a right to transfer once for free. I think that's it's America after all. Come on.
Yeah.
But I think the switching every year is a bit ridiculous. It comes down to whose boosters are the most powerful a lot of times. Um, which teams get more NIL money or like, yeah, it's I don't know. It's a little bit. There needs to be some sort of structure. Personally, if I were the dictator of the NCAA, I would make a rule that anyone can transfer once for free for sure, and then you can transfer again as many times as you want. But unless your coach gets fired, you would have to sit out a year. And I think that would calm some things down. Um, I understand why they don't want it. I get it. And it's good for player flexibility. But coaches get fired every year. I mean, there's a
Right.
lot of them too. And even like Michigan's case, it doesn't have to be fired. If like your coach leaves, you could go. So like in this hypothetical scenario, if Harbaugh left, everyone on Michigan would be free to transfer in and out as they see fit. Um, that's I don't know. I feel like there's some sort of scenario there. But I am interested to see how with the 12 team playoffs, like college football is changing drastically. Um, and I think it's really good. I really do.
I'll tell you
I
one
think
thing the playoff will alleviate too, because you have players, even this year, they went into the portal before their bowl game.
that's the biggest thing
And
that I
and
hate about
so
it.
if you're not in the top four and you're playing for nothing, right? The way they see it, and the portal allows them to transfer before the season's even over. I mean, I don't know. I think that's one part of the portal that I don't like.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's kind of a joke. I mean, I get it because it's like the school year and some like there's other like there's reasons why it's that way. But yeah, I mean, we've kind of made it so that every other bowl game that's not associated with the national championship is kind of irrelevant.
And I don't think it used to be that way. I don't feel like it was. I used to
No,
follow
it
my
used to
team
be.
to whatever bowl game they made.
It used to be. Most people were at least had some merit to it, where people were excited about going to certain things.
Yeah.
But now it just turns into unless we're playing for the national championship, our draft eligible players aren't playing. Our transfers are already letting us know that they're leaving. Um, I don't know. It's just kind of it feels like everything is kind of irrelevant now.
Now with NIL on the line, and I can't give you my opinion specifically on NIL because um we represent a lot of athletes that do take part in that program. But somebody said, what if you take away the scholarship and then you make these students pay back the money for the entire semester if they don't play in the bowl game? So you made a commitment to play. We have one more game, regardless of what you're trying to do after this season. We provided all these resources to you in form of tuition, board, room and board, and whatever else, so you need to see the season through. I mean, it's not a popular opinion, but saying pay it back. Now, the thing is that some players can, right? I mean, I think I
right.
saw Caleb Williams lives in some penthouse in LA or
Penthouse.
whatever. So,
Yeah.
like, come on now. He can pay it back. He can care less. Would that deter some students from like not playing in the bowl game if it's not one of the top four?
To an extent, yes. But I still think the guys who are big names, it, I think there's ways around it. I think you would also get to the point where it'd be like, well, we'll pay your tuition, oh, you want to come to Ohio State and we're at Michigan, we'll pay your tuition at Michigan, like we can, how would you prevent that?
Right.
So it's
It's
a good
like the
idea in theory.
cell phone companies, like, come over here and we'll pay off your old phone or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm sure
It's
that'll happen.
it's like yeah, and there's I mean even though and I know NIL deals are becoming more and more public, but I mean there's so much that goes on that we don't even have any idea about from even recruiting alone when people are just coming to visit. I mean I've heard some stories that are absolutely nuts. Don't know if they're true, so I don't want to repeat them, but I would assume
Um,
that most of them are.
I don't know what you heard, but I can tell you they're probably true. So,
Yeah.
all right, I'm gonna switch gears. We're gonna go into what we call the three strikes. This portion of the show is where each of us are going to bring up three topics, okay? And we're gonna discuss it. We can agree to disagree if that needs to happen, but we'll see what each other's thoughts are on these. So, my first strike, I want to talk about Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
So Baker started the year sort of an unknown, right? The team took a chance on him. I think the city and for the viewers and listeners, we both live in Florida. We both live here. Pinellas in Hillsborough County, Florida, Tampa, Florida, the Bay, and we know what people were saying when Baker got signed. Now, he got signed to a very small contract, like what was it, $4 million or something, right?
Yeah, there was some incentives there, so I'm not sure exactly
Yeah,
what he fully hit, but yeah, it was
but it's
very.
not the kind of money you see a former number one pick in the NFL receive. You know, it's only been what 5, 6 years out. So we were surprised that he took that much money to come here, but he saw it as an opportunity. The city was like, "Oh, you can't find anything better," you know. But statistically, Baker played very well this year. He did get hurt here lately, but he's still not a terrible quarterback. And statistically, he's among the top quarterbacks in the league, you know, in the top half at least. You could probably speak to that effect. But do you think the city needs to keep Baker? I think that he needs to resign here. I think that he loves playing here, and I know all the players are gonna say that. Oh, I love it here until I hate it, and
Sure.
then I hated it from the beginning. But I think he truly loves it here. He has embraced the city. You see him out. You know, I see him out at the race games all the time. He's always out doing things. So he loves playing here. He loves living here, and he's producing. And I think he has a good presence in the clubhouse. Um, who else? I mean, we're not going to have, you know, Tampa's not going to have a number one opportunity to sign a first round draft pick, you know, at quarterback that would be better than Baker, I think. And in free agency, they're probably going to overpay if there's anything available. I think Baker needs to re-sign, extend, you know, maybe like a 3-year deal here, and then they need to commit to what he brings to the table. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone would have to admit that Baker has far exceeded expectations. And I'm gonna get a little stats hubby for you here. So our company, Sports Info Solutions, we kind of have this metric called total points, or we're going to call it as points earned, which is essentially there's a lot more that goes into it, but it kind of tries to quantify the amount of points a player is specifically responsible for. There's a lot more that goes into it, but breaking it down into layman's terms, that's basically what we're trying to do here. With that stat, Baker Mayfield comes in as the 14th best quarterback in the regular season. And for some perspective, the quarterbacks he's in front of, Gardner Minshew was 15th. Gardner Minshew also had a pretty good year. Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. Then you got guys that were hurt like Kirk Cousins, Joe Burrow, Russell Wilson, Sam Howell. Like some guys who some people think had like pretty good years, right? Baker's actually in front of him. And the people that he's actually right behind, he's basically tied with Geno Smith. There's like 0.3 points difference. And then Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud, Matt Stafford, Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy. You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
He's in very good company with quarterbacks that we highly regarded. And just if you guys are interested for the top 5 in this metric, just for full transparency, Dak Prescott won, and like you said, probably make a case he was the best quarterback in the league this year. Josh Allen 2, Tua 3, which I know some people might be shocked by that, but like you said, they've had some pretty impressive offensive performance this year. Um, Patrick Mahomes 4. So it's funny in a down year, Patrick Mahomes is still a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah.
And Jared Goff 5, and Jordan Love 6. I want to throw Jordan Love out there
Oh
because
wow.
he had one of the more underrated. The Packers, man, whatever voodoo magic they have, I we need to study that because it looks like they're going to go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, and they're going to be fine with it. So, so I guess back on topic. I don't see any way that you're going to get anyone better than Baker Mayfield from that list. And I wouldn't trust anyone in the draft from where the Bucks are going to be picking is definitively a better option. So yeah, I agree. I think you have to at least talk and get a number. Worst case scenario, you can franchise tag him, which is a ton of money for 1 year, but you see that often with quarterbacks. You can survive it because they're always the highest paid players anyway, normally. The one thing I would do, the only other option I would consider, and this is just my opinion, I have no idea if they're going to do this or not. I do think you have to reach out to the Bears and see if Justin Fields is available. And if you can pull that off, I think Justin Fields is a upgrade over Baker Mayfield. Probably
Are-
short term and long term.
yeah,
But
I mean, are you thinking? That's what I'm thinking. Are you thinking long term
yeah,
because of
yeah,
longevity? But okay.
like more of
But
a
but
long term.
running quarterbacks in this league, I mean, they don't remain running quarterbacks for long.
Normally, I mean, it's some guys are built differently, and it's risky.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like there's a chance, there is a world where that's a huge mistake, and Baker is actually better than Justin Fields. I
I
think
mean,
you got to shoot. You
that's
shoot
why I'm
for
still
upside.
surprised that Jackson ran 900 yards this year.
Yeah.
I
No,
might
I
take
mean,
that.
and that's a big part of Fields' game. If you take the running out of Fields or Lamar or even Jalen Hurts, if you take that running element out of it, they're not top five quarterbacks for sure. I don't think that's even debatable, honestly. Um, and I don't know about the longevity of things. I think it's still running quarterbacks are still relatively new in the league in terms of, I don't want to say being the standard, but like it's kind of like the new skill set of the NFL where it's traditionally always been pocket passers, good mobility within the pocket, but you could extend plays. But I mean, like two of the best quarterbacks of all time we consider, like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Um, I guess Joe Montana. I mean, I can't speak to Joe Montana really, but like, there's some guys that did move, but traditionally they're pocket passers.
Yeah.
And Baker fits that mold of the traditional pocket passer for sure. He's a little smaller than I guess people would like. But I think it just comes down to like who can you get that's definitively better. And like you said when I brought up Justin Fields, some people may not think he's definitively better consensus. And that's kind of my point is it's so hard to we need better quarterback play. We need to get a better quarterback play. I mean, there were some people who thought this was Dax last year as a Cowboy. I
Right.
mean, like quarterback's tough. It's a tough position. And I think you got to give Baker credit. I think he is in the top 15 quarterbacks in the league right now, which means he's in the top half of quarterbacks in the league. Um, how far off is he from Jared Goff? It's in my opinion, maybe not that far off. So I
I
think
don't
you
know.
can win with Baker.
I don't
So
just look at the skill. I don't know. I think he has that it factor, something that you
yeah,
need, that a little extra. I say sign him right now because you're not gonna find that presence anywhere
uh,
else.
I don't have any pushback on that. I think they should. I think they should. Now maybe you don't give him a 6-year deal, but if he's willing to sign
Nah,
like a 2-3 year
say
extension,
3.
I think it would probably take 3. I would feel comfortable doing it, but you also got to check. I mean, maybe you check in, and if there's a quarterback in the draft that you love, whether it's Drake May, whether it's Caleb Williams, which is going to cost you half your franchise, um, you can go that route. But yeah, from where the Bucks are at, I think Baker Mayfield is not one of their main problems.
Well, all right, let's
That's
go.
my take.
What is your number one strike, Noah?
All right. Well, I'm just gonna get this out of the way. I've kind of led up to this, but as an Eagles fan, I gotta say it. Nick Sirianni, bro, what the hell happened? Um, I'll be the first to admit, man, I was a champion of this guy. I love it. Talk your shit, coach. He resembles Philadelphia. Little cocky guy. I love the Italian thing that they brought into this year. Like, the vibes were good. It was fun. Hard to complain, right? I mean, he was there for 3 years. We made the playoffs every year, developed Jalen Hurts, which was the main reason why he was hired. Um, really probably should have won the Super Bowl last year. We're probably the best team in the league. And going into this year on paper, we're arguably the best team in the league. I've never in the history of I've watched NFL as long as I can remember. I don't remember a single team that has gone from no doubt Super Bowl contender to zero confidence that they can beat the worst team remaining in the playoffs in a span of 6 weeks. I mean, they were 10-1. They're the first team in NFL history to go 10-1 and not have at least 12 wins. It's a total collapse. And it's top to bottom. And you could see it. You could see it earlier in the season that they were winning these games where they really had no business winning. Like, I still have no idea how we won the Bills game. Like, that makes no sense to me. The Chiefs should have been. I mean, we almost gave up to the Patriots week 1. We almost lost to the Commanders twice. There were signs that this team was there were some warning signs there, I guess what I'm trying to say. But I've never seen a team go from Super Bowl contenders to borderline incompetent. Like, I'm serious. Watch the tape. And I know it was the last week of the season, blah, 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 blah. What they put on film against the Giants is worse play than a bad high school football team. That's not an exaggeration.
Wow.
Like there is zero gap assignment. The whole point of a coaching staff is to put your players in the best position to succeed, right? Game plan, put them in the best position to succeed. The first 4 plays of the game, Hassan Reddick, who led the league in sacks last year, was dropping into coverage. What are we doing here? Like, there's no gap assignment. On defense is just Swiss cheese. Now, I know there's injuries. I know Slay's not playing, and I hope that everyone can get over the fact that people were complaining about Slay in the beginning of the year. And without Slay in the lineup, the Eagles are the worst defense in the league, like definitively the worst defense in the league. James Bradbury's demise has to be studied because he went from like at least an average NFL corner to like, I think I'd rather you play corner than have Bradbury line up.
Put me in, coach. You heard it here.
Like, I don't know what happened there. I mean, I think you see the flaw. The Eagles never really invest in linebackers. They never really heavily invest in the safety position. They'll make a trade for a safety like they did this. I think it's pretty obvious, like losing CJ Gardner-Johnson was like devastating. We haven't really recovered from that. But everything on defense has regressed. Everything. Nick Sirianni is an offensive-minded coach. So it's like, okay, he kind of failed on his defensive coordinator hire. But now you look at the offense, and I mean, we've seen videos of players calling out plays while they're watching the game, knowing what's coming. I mean, there was literally, if you look at Marcus Mariota first play against the Giants, literally the first play this past week when he came in after the game, after Jalen was out, which is a whole nother conversation. The first play of the game was a wide receiver screen. The Giants defender, who was the corner on the play, I think it was Flott, their corner. As soon as the ball was snapped, didn't even take a step backwards. He immediately sprinted forward. And honestly, I don't know how he didn't pick 6 that ball. I think our receiver got a hand on it. And but he just blew up the play immediately. And what I'm getting at is no one is surprised what the Eagles are doing anymore. There's no adjustment. Their teams are just blitzing. And the Eagles offense has turned into Jalen run away from the blitz and make something happen, or throw the ball up to AJ Brown or Devontae Smith, who obviously didn't play last week, but throw the ball up to AJ Brown and since they're awesome, have them make an all world caliber play. That's the offense. It's read RPO, which is not even that hard to read anymore. Wide receiver screens, throw the ball up to AJ Devontae or Jalen Hurts, run. Why they don't run the ball down teams' throats anymore, I have no idea. DeAndre Swift is the best running back they've had since LaShawn McCoy. Every time we give him more than 10 to 15, like if we give him 20 carries a game, we've won every game. Every time we've done less than, I think it's less than 12, we've lost. Like, it's just bizarre. And like, I would believe it if I would have more if Jalen got hurt, or if Lane Johnson got seriously hurt and was out for the year, and like Kelsey got hurt. These guys are mostly, I mean, everyone's banged up this time of the year, but these guys are mostly healthy. Like, it's everyone, top to bottom, is just going straight downhill. And I really don't see a scenario where you can justify bringing Nick Sirianni back next year if they get embarrassed by Tampa this weekend. I really don't see a scenario where you can justify it, which is crazy to say. Yeah. I think he has the best winning percentage of all time for any Eagles coach. I think.
What if they don't get embarrassed? What if this is like the biggest Trojan horse in history? What if he's going to dial it up for the playoffs when it counts, when nobody saw it coming? You're going to have to study film from 8 weeks ago if you want to get a glimpse of what you're about to get, because what we've seen for, like you said, 6 weeks, been nothing. But what if they're just going to put it all together now? I mean, I think they have the talent. They have the experience. I mean, I'm not so pessimistic about it.
Yeah, they have the talent. I just don't think that they have the right coaching staff in place to get it done. I really don't. And I don't think there's been a single game this year, except for the Miami game. Miami game is the only game this year where they put together a complete performance top to bottom, where I can definitively say, like, I think Mike Daniel's a really good coach. I think we outcoached them that game. I think we were just better. We were a better team. We had a better scheme. We had a better game plan, and we just kind of beat their ass.
So if it was your choice,
Mhm.
he would be gone after the season.
We'll see.
Let's say you're out next week on Monday. You're out.
If we lose next week, yes, I would fire Nick Sirianni for sure. And the reason why I would do that is for two reasons. One, I think the locker room is gone. I really do. I like, you don't hear about these team only meetings going to, we got to believe in our coaches. Like, that's like the shit that's coming out of that is just like good for them not to let it spiral, but it's obvious that something is off there. I just don't think you can bring anyone back because I'll ask you this: who has gotten better under Nick Sirianni as his regime this year? I can't think of a single player that has gotten.
No, I mean, I get it. I just don't think that. I think he earned more time. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. You hit rock bottom this past 2 months, but he earned the right to right this ship. And it's not gonna, even if it doesn't happen right now, next week or in 2 weeks, I think he earned the right to right the ship. And next year could be, I think, what really tells
I
whether or
think my
not he
main concern
deserves.
with that, and then we'll move on because I don't want to bore people. My main concern with that is if he comes back, he's going to be asked to bring the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, unless we win the Super Bowl, or they're gone for sure. So Sirianni's been adamant that it's his offense, right? It's his. That's why it's his. It's all him. If you're going to make him hire an offensive coordinator to bring in a whole new scheme to completely run the offense, and he already doesn't do anything on defense. He's not, has almost nothing, as far as I'm aware, kind of hands off the defense, and it's all that side of the ball. The defense coordinator runs the show there. What is Sirianni bringing to the table? And then we'd be in the same situation we were in this year. If you bring in an offensive coordinator, he has really good success and gets hired as a head coach. Now you got to re-implement a whole new system. So if Nick Sirianni's not going to run the offense, what's the point of having him as a coach then?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that I think that's my biggest thing. So like, if it were me, if I were Howie Roseman, I would have forced Nick Sirianni to take over the offense. I would have been like, it just hasn't been working with Brian Johnson, who may end up being, I mean, I just saw a report that he's going to interview for the Carolina Panthers head coaching job. Blows my mind. Please take him. But like, and maybe Brian Johnson is going to be a very good, successful coach, and he's being held back from Sirianni's system. But I think you need to have, in order to get a true evaluation of Sirianni and what he can actually bring to the table, it seems like he's a player's coach, right? Players like him, but like, I remember in the Super Bowl last year, like he was like kind of talking shit, and Jalen like grabbed his hand and like put him down. I was like, normally it's the other way around, right? You see like a player talking shit, and it's the coach that has to like calm him down, not your third year quarterback who's 24 years old telling your head coach, hey, chill out. Like, I don't know. I think the stick kind of wore off. And at the end of the day, I just don't think I think he was brought in to develop Jalen Hurts. He did that. He did a great job. We almost even won the Super Bowl. But has Jalen Hurts plateaued? And if the answer is yes, you have to move on before you ruin Jalen Hurts like they did Carson Wentz.
All right, this scale is going to tip this week, so we're going to talk about it next week for sure.
I hope so. I hope I'm wrong.
And see
I've
which
never
way
wanted to
it's
be wrong
going.
more than in my entire life.
Good deal. All right, we're going to go to strike two. My strike two, Shohei Ohtani. All right. So this guy was the new Mike Trout who went to play with Mike Trout. You know, when we had Mike Trout as the best player in baseball for so many years, and then Ohtani comes in, and then he's the best player in baseball for so many years, and they played together, and nothing happened. No playoffs appearances or anything like that. And then this guy is going to one of the best teams in the league. I don't know. I don't know if it's fair or not that this is happening, right? They're creating a super team, like the NBA does. Baseball is a lot different with the way salary cap works and the luxury tax and all that. But do you think that Ohtani coming to the Dodgers is similar to something like Kevin Durant going to Golden State? And if so, w- what is the legitimacy of a title in LA when you bring all these stars in?
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. I mean, look, I'm upset. I'm not upset that Ohtani is a Dodger. I think if you paid attention, the Dodgers have been lining this up for years. It's why they let Corey Seager go. It's why they didn't really spend a lot of money last offseason. They were planning for this. I kind of always expected Ohtani to end up as a Dodger, just being honest. It makes a lot of sense. The thing that really bothers me about it is the deferred money, which is my second strike. And
Oh, okay.
so it's a good transition. So I'll kind of just go into it. I think Major League Baseball needs to come up with more defined rules of the deferred money, because right now it is a loop. It's essentially a cheat code. And now I know people are going to be upset. Oh, you can do whatever you want. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying that. And like, look, Otani's situation is unique. He makes $50 million a year in endorsements. Like, he's got an entire nation watching every single one of his games. And the Dodgers are getting that benefit too. The Dodgers with all the jerseys they're going to sell, and oh, by the way, they also signed his best friend Yamamoto, who's also from there. So they're going to have a ton of TV money. They essentially have a whole nation behind them. But what I don't understand, and I don't fully, maybe you understand it better than I do. From my understanding, deferred money does not count towards the luxury tax. So if that's true, essentially Shohei Ohtani is playing for almost the league minimum for his entire Dodgers career on the books, basically. To me, that's ridiculous. That is there's got to be rules in place to prevent that from happening. Now, I know this never really happened before, and I'm not saying you can't defer money, but I don't understand why, if I defer something for 10 years down the road, why that doesn't hit my luxury tax bill 10 years down the road when I'm starting to pay Ohtani $28 million a year. I think that's not fair. And I think every team in the league should try and exploit that. I mean,
Right.
the Dodgers did it again with Teoscar Hernandez. They just gave him a 1-year deal and they deferred. And I think 1-year deals shouldn't be allowed to be deferred at all. Personally, that would be my take too. I don't think anything 1-year deal should be deferred. But I mean, like, what's stopping the Phillies from calling up Bryce Harper and Scott Boras and be like, hey, we're going to give you a 20-year contract extension, and we're going to give you $500 million, but your salary on the book is going to be $1 million for your entire playing career that you played with the Phillies. And then we're going to pay you all the deferred money down the line. So all of a sudden I just got Bryce, obviously Bryce would have to agree with it. The players have to agree with it. But like, these big players who are making a ton of money in endorsements anyway would be more inclined to probably do that. I know agents, correct me if I'm wrong, they love deferred deals. That means they're getting money for the rest of their lives, basically. I don't know. I think my biggest complaint about the whole Shohei Ohtani situation is, and it was his idea, and good for him. He's not doing anything illegal. Like, good for them.
Yeah.
Good for the Dodgers. Congrats to Dodgers fans. Like, you got the best player in the league basically for free. On your purposes, it's basically for free. The owner will deal with it.
Well,
And I feel like that is where I would say it's not tainted. You still got to win a World Series. I don't even get, as a joke, I have a few buddies who work for the Dodgers. I was like, you guys haven't won a World Series. You won the COVID year. That doesn't count. So it's legitimate. And I don't think they're going to win the World Series this year. I don't.
I don't think so either. It's baseball. I mean, the biggest payroll doesn't always win it, and
Yeah.
barely does it ever win it. So I'm good with that part of it. Now, the way that the deferred compensation affects your payroll is a little bit tricky, because you have to look at the value, the future value of the contract for its deferred period. Now, I think the league limits on how many years you can do this. You can do it up to 10 years, technically, based on the CBA. But you have to decide, okay, if I'm deferring $68 million for 10 years, right? Meaning I'm going to not pay you until 10 years from now. The present value of that future $68 million becomes a lot less. The team is still required to do a few things. They have to put money into escrow for the anticipation of paying that payment in 10 years. So that way, you might be familiar with the situation with Bobby Bonilla, where the team, back then decided to compensate him over the, I don't know, the next 100 years of his life after he retired versus paying him then. And they decided to invest the money with the notorious investment banker in New York back in the day, who decided that that money wasn't going to ever go back to the Mets. So that now the agreement reads that they have to put some of this money in escrow now based on the current value of that future $68 million. So it does decrease to an extent what amount hits the actual payroll for that year that will count towards the luxury tax limit and all that. And I would say, depending on the contract duration, it could be anywhere from 60 to 70%, somewhere in there. So that $68 million means they still would have to put, based on the 45% or 40% in escrow that they would carry on the current value of that money, maybe let's just say 60% of that. 68 million times 60%. So $40 million. So $40 million is still going to affect the luxury tax, but that's $28 million less. So if you do that once with him or twice with a couple players, yeah, that could get you not only more players for the same amount of hit, it could get you saving a lot of millions of dollars, because once you hit that luxury tax, at some point it could also almost be dollar for dollar.
It to me, it's a way where smart teams, smart ownerships, and smart front offices can loophole the luxury tax system.
Yeah. And I don't think, though, that it's going to work for all the players, because obviously if I'm making $4 million a year, I don't want you to defer a penny, because I need my $4 million now. That money is worth to me a lot more now than it will be when my career is over. So I understand where Ohtani and his team can afford to do this because of all the other money he has coming in, right? But that's not going to be the case with all the players. There's not that many Ohtanis out there.
Right.
Even if you look at the comparison of endorsement deals between Ohtani and Freeman, right? Or Ohtani and Betts, I mean, it's a huge discrepancy. So I don't think Betts and Freeman are in a position where they can say, "Oh, don't pay me now." And I get it, what's the difference between 100 million and 200 million to somebody? Really not a big difference. But the value of current money to these players is important too. So I don't think every player out there is going to be doing that. So it's not going to be an opportunity for all the teams, Phillies included, to go cheat code and get all these players in. I don't think.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think you're right. It's the it's kind of those guys where maybe they have family money, or they're financially well off to, I mean, not everyone's going to be Ohtani and make more money off the field than they do on the field. I get that. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough because I get it. I give Ohtani, it's a brilliant move. It's brilliant. And I mean, Andrew Friedman is arguably the best in the business for a reason. But yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like they need to standardize some things and be able to defer that much money. Is like, I feel like there should be thresholds. And again, I also don't think any 1 year deal should be able to be deferred either. I don't understand that. But yeah, no, it's interesting for sure. But that's what really bothers me the most about the whole Ohtani thing, is that now they essentially, to be brutally honest, got Ohtani, Teoscar Hernandez, and Yamamoto for less than the price that it would just cost for Ohtani.
Yeah.
The way it should have been. You
So
know
are
what I'm trying
you?
to say?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So does that mean you're rooting against the Dodgers now?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Do you think the country's rooting against the Dodgers because of that?
not yet. I
No.
think I think a lot of them will, yes, but not yet. Otani's not the villain yet. He will be.
Are they going to
Just
be as hated as the Yankees? They're
maybe,
trying, huh?
maybe.
That's funny. Well, it'll be good to see this season, see how that all plays out. World Series or bust, all in or all out. We'll see.
Yep, they are all in. Um, Before even Otani, and Otani's not even going to pitch this year. That's the funniest thing out of all of it.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot of money for a DH. All right, we're gonna go to strike three. So my
Yep.
strike three is gonna be Dak Prescott. So you mentioned a minute ago how he was number one in your list for 2023. So Dak Prescott's contract, I think, expires next year. And I
Mhm.
remember at the time when he was paid what $40 million a year. It was a 160 million contract. And the everybody was like, this guy does not deserve that money. Like he should not be paid that much. What is Jerry doing? This guy's not even should not even be starting, much less being the highest paid quarterback at the time. So we're gonna fast forward to now and look back at this contract. Does it make sense to you? And does he deserve more money or an extension going into next year?
Yeah, I think he's going to get it. I do. I think the Cowboys hedged their bets a little bit going into the season um, by getting Trey Lance for like a fourth round pick. I think they did that as not so much that they think Trey Lance is better than Dak. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. But I think they did that in case Dak struggled at all, that they would put in a fresh, younger look to see kind of similar situation where Dak took over when took over for Romo.
Right.
Um, to see it, but I mean, I don't see a scenario where Dak doesn't walk out of doesn't walk out with a contract extension next year. And not only do I think it's going to be big, I think it's going to be bigger than the contract Jalen Hurts got. Which for Jalen got 5 years, 255 million, 20 about 23 million to signing bonus, 179 guaranteed, which is wild. Average annual salary of 51. And I fully expect Dak to beat that. Partially because the cap continues to go up and the more long-term deals you get, the more expensive they're always going to be. But yeah, I mean, unless he collapses completely in the playoffs and puts up like an Eagles like performance that they've looked like the last 7 weeks and just completely chokes.
Don't wish that on anybody, man. Come on.
I wish that. I hope it happens. I don't see that happening. Yeah, you want to talk about getting a quarterback that's better than Dak Prescott. I mean, good luck. Like, yeah, I think not only do I think you're right that I think Dak's contract actually is more fair than people realize, especially now if you compare it to what he's putting up now compared to what other guys are getting paid.
Right. I
But
have
I
a
mean,
different perspective. So
yeah,
and one, the masses when you talk about these big contracts that these players get, the masses are against players deserving this money, getting paid this much money for what they do. But I look at it as a share in revenue and what opportunity cost would be to a team. So what Dak has done for the team, um, by proportion of how much money this team has made in the last 3 years from when he started. You talk about merchandise sales, you talk about the increase of what the TV rights deals are. You talk about how much money the team as a whole is worth now. Like if you look back 5 years ago to this year to what the Dallas Cowboys is worth, why shouldn't the players share in that, right? Why? I think that they need to be paid proportionally to what they bring in terms of adding to the value of the franchise, the value, the sport, of course, the value to the owners and shareholders. And Dallas has it figured out. But Jerry could be more generous than he's been already, and he's been generous, as people have pointed out. But he could be more generous than he's been because of how much money this team is worth, how much money this team generates in revenue. And it's hard. Listen, my season seats, they're not cheap and they're crap. Like, they're not crap. They're great seats, but they're in the 400s. This is not your typical team where you can go buy into a seat somewhere down low, whatever. This team has a waiting list from hell. And
Right.
a lot of people want to give Jerry all their money, as much money as they can. And so when that happens, that money needs to trickle down to these players. We have this year, Dak. I mean, he led the league in touchdowns, I think close to in yards. Like you say, he was one of the top quarterbacks. We had CeeDee Lamb with leading the league in catches and yards and all that. All these players, I mean, are making a big impact, and I think that these contracts will soon reflect that. And I hope people don't, I hope they understand that that money is being generated by their play, and this team is making the money. So why not give it to the players, right?
Yeah. I don't have anything. I don't have a counter argument to that. I'm gonna be
I
honest.
win. I win this strike. All right.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
your strike three?
All right. My strike three, this just happened like yesterday. Well, I don't know when this is going to air, but when we're recording this happened yesterday. I don't even really know how to pronounce his name correctly, but I just call him Cutter Quitter. But Cutter Gautier, for those of you who don't know, one of the best prospects in all of hockey, drafted by the Flyers, I think fifth overall, maybe fourth, something like that. Just won the gold medal in the World Juniors. One of the best players, if not the best player on that team. Probably one of, I don't, it depends who you ask, but probably a consensus top 5 prospect in all of hockey. Well, the Flyers just traded him for a defenseman who's also very good. Drysdale's good. He was the 6th overall pick in 2020. Good player, and they do need some help on the blue line there, and a second round pick. And the reports that are coming out are not good. In fact, it's not even reports. The Danny Briere, our GM, and Keith Jones, president of hockey operations, basically flat out said Cutter did not want to play for the Flyers, which is weird because they drafted him. They've had these conversations. He committed to the Flyers. He spoke very highly about the Flyers. Apparently, I think even his mom was a Flyers fan, is what he said. And the way the NHL works is players get drafted, but they can still go to college, and the NHL teams own their rights until they declare for the draft, sign a contract to play either in the AHL or the NHL, depending on their situation. Apparently, reports started surfacing that Cutter just didn't have any interest in playing with the Flyers, didn't have any interest in signing with the Flyers, and in fact, it's now known that he basically cut off communication for the Flyers for the past 9 months. And that's not a rumor. That's coming directly from Danny Briere, our general manager. So I have 2 takes on this. One, as a player, you have every right. I mean, we've seen this before. Eli Manning comes to in football where he was like, I'm not going to play for the Chargers. So like, you play when you're that good, unfortunately, you have some more power. If you suck, it's irrelevant. All right, see ya. Like, whatever, who cares? But when you're that good, you kind of have this power, and it's within his right to change his mind after he gets drafted and not sign a contract and either re-enter the draft or potentially force your way onto a different team and sign a contract after you get traded. So he's well within his right to do this. This isn't the first time this has happened, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be allowed to do this. I get it from that perspective. Now I'm going to turn my Philly sports hat on here for a second. So forgive me here, but This is to Cutter Quitter. You fucking coward. Okay? That's all I have to say. What are you talking about that you don't have any interest in playing in Philadelphia? How soft are you? You don't want to play for a hard coach like Tortorella? You don't want to play for Torts? Like, is that the issue? You don't want to be coached hard? So that's a big red flag if that's true. You don't want to play for a first time general manager and president of hockey operations who both have monumentally more experience than you do in hockey they've been playing it since before you were born. You don't want to do that. Are you afraid of the Philly sports media? Are you afraid that Michkov, our other top prospect who's over in Russia right now, is going to overshadow you? I got to hear it from you, bro. Like you got what happened? Don't get me wrong. I get being afraid of Philadelphia sports. I get it. You can't be soft. It killed Carson Wentz. It killed Ben Simmons. It killed half of the first round picks that had been recently for any Philly sports. I get it. It's tough. But this fan base is so ready for the Flyers to explode. I mean, I went into the season with zero expectations. I said I wasn't even going to watch a game this year. That's how bad I expected the Flyers to be. And they're actually like relatively decent. Now, I don't think they're that good, and I'm not sure if they're even going to make the playoffs ultimately, but they're not a complete dumpster fire like everyone was expecting.
Did he
So
get to pick where he was traded to?
He didn't. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, there's more stuff that needs to come out. But long story short, they traded him to Anaheim,
Right.
which, I mean, maybe he liked the weather there better. I don't know. That's what I got to hear from him. But like, this guy just won the World Juniors. He is definitively one of the best young hockey players in the world. Definitively, no doubt about it. I'm not shitting on his talent. I'm not shitting on that. But I got to hear from you, man. Like, what changed? What changed? Like, and the fact that players like that don't have to talk about it is I kind of get it. He's going to get crucified no matter what he says. I mean, he is now the number one villain in Philadelphia sports.
He should call us. We're not going to crucify him, right? Well, maybe you are a little bit, but
I would be. I just want to have a conversation. I remember when we drafted him, I was like, oh, sweet. Like, we finally have like a top goal scoring prospect that we haven't really had in a while. Not that I'm overly knowledgeable about every prospect, but like, you knew about him. And then when this news came out, I mean, it was just like, I just have a lot of questions. So I had to get it off my chest. I think the Flyers will be okay. It sucks. I wish he would play for us. He's now the new number one. I think he's going to be more hated than Sidney Crosby ever was, which is hilarious. And yeah, so that my strike three is Cutter Quitter.
Where did the Ducks end up last year? Let me look.
I don't even know, to be honest. They haven't been very good.
Oh my God. Last place in the Western Conference last year.
I was about to say,
they're not doing well this year. So once he gets there, what's he going to do? Look at this. Anaheim Ducks a couple years ago, fourth from the bottom. Is he going to want to play there too either or no?
Well, that's another thing too, is I hope Anaheim has a good, well, if they make this trade and he doesn't sign with them, they're going to look fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know. Can we curse on this? Sorry, when I get my Philly sports hat on.
I mean, maybe he could be like Caleb Williams and say, "Okay, I'm gonna go to one of these teams. That's it, and then I want part ownership."
Yeah, I mean, it's so that's my hockey topic. I wanted to talk about it. It was just relevant and it was really bothering me. And the three strikes aren't always going to be things that are bothering me. This week it happened to work out that way.
Cutter Quitter, call us. We want to find out what's running through your mind, and Philly does not like you anymore. We don't want you. That's what coach said. Coach said, we don't want you then.
I will say it will be must-watch TV his first game in Philadelphia, though. That's going to be fun.
That's funny. Well, all right, we're going to go into the last section of our show where we give our top fives before we make our picks. So today I'm going to do a top five. As you know, I am almost done with my chase of visiting all the ballparks in the U.S. I have one left, Oracle Park in San Francisco, scheduled to be visited by me and my wife this June. come in June. There's 3 good series. I think I don't even know if the Dodgers were on the schedule that month, but it's gonna be hard to find some good tickets because they playing some good teams that month. But so I want to rate so far, not including Oracle Park, my top 5 stadiums that I have visited. At number 1, no, let's go backwards. Let's start with number 5.
And is this just baseball?
This is just baseball stadiums, yeah.
Got
So at number 5, and you're gonna think I'm crazy,
Okay.
the Coliseum in Oakland. So I'll tell you why. Because when I get there, it reminds me of the stadiums in Puerto Rico when I was growing up.
Okay.
Because they were old. There wasn't a lot of people there, but you could see like real baseball up close for very little money, right? So when I went to visit this year, for my first visit at the Coliseum in Oakland, I was able to sit like 4 rows behind the Orioles visiting bench dugout, and I felt like I was on the field. And I mean, the stadium behind me was just a dump. The facilities are terrible. I tell you what, though, the hot dogs are not bad, but the facilities are terrible. The scoreboard's a hot mess. Do you have places where there should be advertisements and they're not there? It's just like blank pieces of canvas, and it's just a hot mess. But the baseball was real. You could tell that these players, they weren't there to play for a crowd. They were there to play for fun, right? Kind of brought me back to growing up in Puerto Rico. So that's why the Coliseum in Oakland is number 5. I don't even know if it's called that anymore, but that's what I call it. Number 4, Oriole Park. Well, what do you think about the Coliseum? I know you won't agree, but
Never been.
all right, we need to get you there. Number 4, Oriole Park at Camden. I think the history of Camden Yards and the warehouse and pretending the Ripken is playing. I don't know. It just had that thing for me, and it was a really good place to be. Now, I hated the games I went to watch because every time I watched a game there, it was against the Rays, and the Rays lost every game that I watched in Baltimore this and last year.
You were
So
the bad luck charm.
I know I need to quit that. Now, last year, this past season, this year, I watched the Orioles on the road and at home, I think a total of 15 times, and they were 15-0. Like, how does that happen? They should have invited me to all the playoff games.
Seriously.
Number 3, Busch Stadium. I think the backdrop with the arch and the history of the home run chase and all through all those years, and then the Pujols years and following Yadier Molina. I don't know, the atmosphere for playoffs at Busch Stadium is amazing. It's crazy. The food is great. So I put Busch at number 2. Sorry, at number 3. And number 2, one of the newer parks, Truist Park in Atlanta. I thought that park was pretty cool because of the battery, the whole, area, the atmosphere, the fans. Like, I think I went to a Sunday game this week, and I got there, I don't know, 4 hours before the game, and that place was packed. There's people already in line trying to get in. It was an overcast day before the game started, and you knew it was going to rain that day, and it's still packed. Like, that place was crazy on a Sunday. So that was a lot of fun. My number 1, PNC Park. PNC Park in Pittsburgh. I don't know. I think it has a lot of history with you have the Roberto Clemente Bridge. You have the river right there. You have all the monuments across going by the river. On the other side, you have, what is it called? Acrisure Stadium now, the old Heinz Field or whatever. So that's an extra, that's a little plus. But I think overall, with the aesthetics of the park, the fan experience, the facilities, and just the overall baseball atmosphere so far, PNC is my number 1 park.
I've heard that. That's another stadium I actually haven't been to. I haven't been to, I think 10. I think that 10 or maybe 11. Yeah.
What are your 2
PNC
favorites so far?
My 2 favorites?
Yeah.
All right. My second favorite is going to be Citizens Bank Park. I will admit that there is some bias there, but I will say I even brought my buddy there last year, and Brandon Haney, and he can vouch for this. It is a different beast watching a playoff game in Citizens Bank Park. I have never, ever experienced an atmosphere like that in any baseball state. It is essentially an SEC college football atmosphere. Is the best way I can describe it during
Wow.
a playoff game at Citizens Bank Park.
That says a lot. And a lot of people don't understand what that means, SEC play, SEC baseball experience. Because I'll tell you, when I went to the College World Series as an OU fan and we played Ole Miss, um, was it, no, Missis? Yeah, it was Ole Miss that we were playing. I'm telling you, man, we had 1,000 OU fans that traveled 7 hours from Oklahoma, and you had 14,000 Mississippi, Ole Miss fans come overnight. They all slept in their cars because there's no hotels and they didn't want to
Yep,
pay for hotels. And that place was rocking. I mean, if that's what SEC baseball is like, I'm telling you, that's crazy. But you went to the World Series game. I mean, you were their good luck charm. You went to the only game they won, right?
I did go to the only game they won that
A
year.
couple of
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, I did go. I went last year too to game one of the NLCS, which they also won. So I guess I got to start going to more. Maybe I should go to the Eagles game.
Well, maybe you should. So we'll see. Tomorrow we'll make a decision. And then
Um,
what's your second one?
I think so. So I'll put Philly. I'll put Philly at two. So I think the best stadium I've ever been to. I'm kind of surprised you didn't mention it. I think Citi Field is. There's something about that stadium, and Shea's the worst stadium I've ever been to in my entire life. So that's a big improvement there. But there's something about Citi Field that I just love. Um, Honestly, another park that is close that you didn't mention is the Nationals Park. I think that's a very
Yeah.
underrated stadium. But I'll be full disclosure. I've heard of like Pittsburgh, San Francisco, San Diego. You can kind of tell the places I haven't been. um, I haven't been to those, so I can't really say. Um, but if I had to give like my rough, I think Citi Field is number one for me. I really do. I
Wow.
love that stadium, and I hate the Mets, so that should tell you. That should tell
Yeah.
you.
I wouldn't argue with that. I mean, Citi Field was built, they did a lot of great things and a lot of history, you know.
Yeah,
They still have the home plate, like they put these plaques on the ground in the parking lot where the old Shea home plate was and the
I
bases.
love
People
that.
still go before the game and play baseball out in the parking lot, pretending they're at Shea Stadium. That's pretty cool. Did you know that Citi Field is the only ballpark in the US that has orange flagpole or foul poles?
I did not.
Yep. So
Interesting.
they were grandfathered in from Shea, and they're actually 10 feet shorter than regulation is required in MLB, but they were able to use those foul poles, and they're the only team ballpark with the orange foul poles and orange lines. So your home run lines at the walls and all that, they're orange as opposed to yellow like everywhere else.
That's wild. No,
That's
that's
cool.
wild. No, I think they did a hell of a job. And I remember I went to Yankee Stadium and Citi Field at the same year, and Citi Field felt like they nailed it with the modern baseball experience, but it still kind of felt like you were in America's pastime. Whereas like Yankee Field just kind of felt like Yankee Stadium felt like really corporate to me. It's super impressive and it's an awesome stadium. People should go check it out. But
They still have the apple in center field, but did you know that's not the same apple?
I did know that. I did know that.
So they had to build the stadium around the apple. Essentially, they brought in the apple, put the apple in, and then started building the stadium because the apple itself is so heavy and it doesn't come apart.
That's
So I thought
amazing.
that was pretty cool. So
No,
what are
but
your
yes,
top five?
I did so yeah, so pivoting a little bit, I went top five for my top five. I went with just the best. I feel like it was current my top five teams that are currently in the NFL playoffs. Um I kind of view it as however you want. I just think these are the best five teams currently in the NFL playoffs. I guess I'll start at five, even though I kind of want to start at one. I'll start at one just because it's easier. One to me is San Francisco. I already mentioned it. I think they're clearly the team to beat. They're the best team in the league. They've been in that situation all year. It's their Super Bowl to lose. Number two, I'm going to put the Bills. I think I already said that was my Super Bowl matchup, so I got to stay consistent. So those are my one and two teams. Number three, I'll put the Ravens. Again, we already kind of talked a lot about it. Don't want to be the dead horse. We can move on. Four and five are very close, but four for me is going to be the Dallas Cowboys, as much as I hate to say it.
Nice.
I think that I know that they're Dallas. I know that they're chokers, and I fully expect them not to win the Super Bowl like usual. But if this is a hell of a season for them, they have a great opportunity to actually put it all together here. And I would be pretty surprised if they're not playing at least in the NFC Championship game. So I got to put the Cowboys there at 4. Then number
Here we
5,
go.
yeah. And then number 5, reigning champs, Chiefs. I know it's looked ugly. I know it's looked weird, but they're there and they're the reigning champs, and I still got to put them in the top 5. You gotta beat them to dethrone them. So until someone actually beats them, they're still a top 5 team in the league. Um, you got. I still think Andy Reid's the best coach, and one of if him or Tomlin, those are 1, 2, any way you want it. Mahomes is arguably the best player ever, and maybe Travis Kelce was saving his powers this year for the playoffs.
Who's that? Who's Travis? Oh, that's the guy that's dating Taylor. Okay. Okay.
Oh yeah, sorry, Taylor's
I think I've
boyfriend.
seen him before.
No, but Travis has been getting a lot of unfair scrutiny because if you were playing against the Chiefs, you would do everything you can to make anyone besides Travis beat you because they have some of the worst wide receiver corps I've ever seen, and it's kind of amazing that they're still a top 5 team with how crappy their skill players are minus Travis Kelce. That's just shows how good their coaching staff and Patrick Mahomes is. But yeah, that's my top 5. And then the worst, and just for full disclosure, the worst team in the playoffs is definitely the Eagles.
Even worse than the Steelers. Okay, the two Pennsylvania teams are just like at the bottom this year.
Yeah,
I'll go with that. It would be nice to see a Cowboys. I'm a Steelers fan, but my wife is a Cowboys fan, so it'd be nice to see a Cowboys Steelers Super Bowl like back in 1995 when
premier
when
franchises.
when the Cowboys had 12 players on the field, if you count what's his name? The quarterback from the Steelers.
Big Ben.
O'Donnell. Yeah, if you count O'Donnell, the Cowboys were playing with 12 men on the field. Not fair. But hopefully the Cowboys can make it. As you know, I have season seats to the Cowboys, so potentially can watch 2 to 3 games in Dallas. Nevertheless, after the game this weekend, I'll be back here in Tampa, and I think that you and I have a date to go watch your Eagles do whatever they're going to do on Monday, man.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll report back. I don't know. Keep me updated. It's also Caitlin's birthday too, so that'll get a little hairy, but
All right, we'll figure this out. So let me ask you this. I'm going to have you guess. I'm going to give you some stats for a player, and I want you to guess who do you think this player is, okay? Let me
sure.
see. I'm going to pull it right up and give you some hints. So this guy, he's in the
What
3,000
sport?
is baseball. Yeah. So he's in the 3,000 hit club, okay?
Okay.
Let me pull it up here. So that's clue
3,000.
number 1. That narrows it down to not too many players. 3,000 hits.
How many people are in the 3,000 hit club? I should know that.
Now, like many people, he was drafted by the Oakland A's, okay?
Ooh.
Finished his career with the LA Dodgers. If at any point you think you know who it is, you just go ding in and tell me and give me your guess. So I'll keep going. Drafted by the Oakland A's, finished his career with the Dodgers. He was a 10-time All-Star. He was a 1-time MVP of the league.
1-time MVP. Okay, hold on. Let me think. All right, I need another one.
Now, hear this. You know already that he had 3,000 hits. So he had 3,055 hits, only 3,081 games. So he almost had a hit per game.
Whoa.
Pretty impressive. He's 5'10".
Man.
So he's not a huge guy, you know?
You said 5'10"?
5'10". Yeah.
So this is like old school.
Could be old school. I can't remember the last time. Who was the last 3,000 hitter? Miggy, or was it Beltre?
Beltre definitely did it. Miggy definitely did it.
Yeah. So it was before their time. Definitely. All right.
Man.
He played 25 seasons.
Is it Ricky Henderson?
There you go, man. What gave it away?
I just thought drafted by Oakland. I just wasn't 100% sure if he finished his career with the Dodgers, to be
Right.
honest.
No, I went to this trivia game one time, and one of the questions at the end was plays the player with the last team they played for. And man, I tell you, I had a hard time putting all these players with their last team because I can't remember a lot of these people who they play for last. I did
Yeah.
not know
So,
Ricky Henderson played for the Dodgers for 1 year, you know? Like
yeah.
I remember him in Toronto, obviously Oakland because he played there the most years. I remember him in oh shoot, I remember him with the Mets. He was with the Mets for a year. But Toronto, Oakland, the Yankees, he had the two stints with Oakland A's, but I never knew he played for the Dodgers for 1 year. So
Yeah, that's what threw me off when I was like, when
yeah,
you said drafted by Oakland, I thought Ricky Henderson, but I was like, I don't want to sound like an idiot.
yeah. But nowadays, so many, you look back and see how many people are drafted by teams and used as draft bait, and
Oh
and
yeah.
they very rarely do they end up playing in the teams that drafted them anymore. The minor leagues is a place where you can create a lot of value for yourself, and the teams in the majors are trying to win now. So if you present an opportunity where your value can be traded for something that can help them win now, that happens quite a bit. You can see how the Rangers were able to put it together this year. They traded away a lot of their picks and their minor league, farm system out to
And
get
then
to
they
where they
still end
are.
up
So
getting a top 5 pick and arguably,
right.
in my opinion, the biggest draft steal in Wyatt Langford going to Fox. Rangers had a good year.
All right. Well, you got any final thoughts?
No, just hopefully people enjoy this. If not, worst case scenario, this is really good therapy for me. Um,
I know, right? Therapy for me too. Well, man, I appreciate your time, and hopefully, listeners, you're gonna tune in next week. We're gonna try and do this every week. The Sport Fiction Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, our website, thesportsfiction.com, or on YouTube, our YouTube channel, The Sport Fiction. Thank you so much. From Tampa, Florida, I'm Jorge.
Noah.
You guys have a great day.